Hi YouTube, it's Diane. I thought I would do my next update video on my Cross Stitch Crazy challenge for January. And if you hear noises behind me, it's my kids getting all their snow gear on because it's actually warm enough with temperature and wind chill that they can go out without freezing to death, literally. Some of the wind chills have been kind of scary. But my last video was January 1st through 9th, and this will be 10th through 20th. Today is January the 21st. So you're going to want to sprinkling. To keep this many projects organized, that's the only way I can do it. So unless I make myself project bags, but that's not happening today. So the 10th. Lizzie Kate, sons are a special joy. And as you can see, there are 4 stars on there. 2 here and 2 here. And I've recharted it because I have 10 sons, which you can hear a couple of them fighting behind me. Joy. Boys just have a different energy level than girls. And I've recharted it so I have 10 stars on there. I haven't started stitching the stars, so I'm not sure what that will look like. But I've chosen to use Mo's cottons on this project. And here is where I'm at. Be able to get to on the 10th. So I don't remember all the colors. I know the frame is Tagata, but I'd have to look up the other colors. And the girls here, daughters are a special joy. There's 3 flower pots and I have 3 daughters, so that'll work great. And I use the same color in the frame on both. The fabric is 32 count French lace, Belfast, I believe, linen. So I have an idea how I want to display those when they're done. But I'll wait till they're done and hopefully I can find what I'm thinking of. That was the 10th. The 11th. The 11th, the pattern and I had a little disagreement of sorts. And it is from the World of Cross Stitching magazine, number 231. And it is Blackwork Hummingbird. The problem that I had with this is that the pattern, the hummingbird part of the pattern, is colored, meaning that it has a symbol in the box and then they filled the rest of the box with ink similar to the thread color that is called for. When you have a few colors, that's not bad. It's not bad. But when you have, I think this has 5 greens, all very similar colors, and then you're trying to find inks, and you look down, and yeah, it made my eyes go buggy, gave me a headache. So what I did is I photocopied the hummingbird part of the pattern, and when I did that, you could still see all of the symbols, but and yes, some of the squares were a little darker gray than others, but it was so much easier to read and count and figure out. So if you have a colored pattern, one that has all those colored boxes and it has a symbol in the box, you might want to consider making a black and white copy if the color is bugging you, because it bugged me. And here's where I'm at. This is 32 count Brittany, and yes, it is black. And this is where I'm at on the hummingbird. There are 2 shades of green there right now. I know that there are at least 2 more, if not 3 more shades in the design. I would have been a lot farther, but because I had the tussle with the fabric, or excuse me, the pattern. Needle minder I made. I had no problem stitching on black fabric because I did put a white something on your lap underneath so you could look down and I could see all the holes. I didn't even have to use my magnifier on this. I put just a piece of white paper underneath, so as I was stitching I could look through and find the holes really easily, and I'll continue to do that. I'm not sure what color I want for the blackwork part of the design. Blackwork, while it's traditionally done in black thread, doesn't have to be. Blackwork is different than gold work or red work in what kind of stitches are used and the overall effect. but I am choosing to do that in a different color. I haven't chosen the color. I'm looking at possibly B5200, but I'm going to do a thread toss after the hummingbird is done because I'm not sure if I want a bright white like B5200 or more of a creamy antique feel like Ecru would give, or 3860, 566 right in there on the DMC scale. What kind of effect I'll want. And there is black on the tail of the hummingbird. I will probably use a dark gray instead of black, like 3799 or like 414, that range of grays, or the 318 range of grays, somewhere in there. And Organic Granny, the only reason I know those numbers is because they're in White Dragon, and so I use those a lot in the White Dragon. January 12th, from Just Cross Stitch Magazine, June 2015. Teacup Herbs, Basil, and Sage. I've already started Thyme and Dill, which were from the April edition of this magazine. I don't think in the last video I mentioned what fabric I'm stitching them on. I'm stitching all four on the same type of fabric. And, excuse me, I'm stitching them on Antique White. Antique White is kind of my go-to color. It's not quite as, it seems to be easier on the eyes than white to have an antique white, in my opinion, and this is Lugana. Antique White Lugana. And I'm thinking this is the right direction. I could be wrong, but this is Basil. I had a pretty busy day on the 12th. I got my 100 stitches in, but I'm not sure if that's the right way. I'm thinking actually that it's this way. I don't know. When I stitch on it again, it'll be easy to figure that out, and I won't have a problem with that. And then on January 14th, I stitched Sage. I love this Harlequin pattern, this diamond Harlequin pattern. I love that. And I had a little more time, so I got onto the border a little bit. So, and this is a Jack and the Beanstalk needle minder that I made. But these, all of them are on 28 count Antique White Lugana. And yes, I have two big pieces because it was less expensive to buy two big pieces of the Antique White, and I know both will fit on there, no problem, than 4 little pieces. It was less expensive that way. So I have an idea how I want to display them when they're all said and done, but I'll worry about that when I get there. So that was January 12th and January 14th. January 13th is a Heaven and Earth design. It is The Scout by Tamara Markegard, charted by Michelle at Heaven and Earth Designs. I ordered the hard copy, so this is the paper. Michelle uses a really nice paper when you get a hard copy like this. I don't have a black and white, or excuse me, I don't have a color printer. I only have a black and white, so that's one reason I ordered it this way. And at the time I wasn't getting digital patterns, but I have purchased digital patterns since this. But I love the detail in her cape. I hadn't noticed as much until I actually received this picture, because there's some right here on the edge of her cape and up here on her shoulders, and then kind of the individual fur in her hat and her cubs here. So really, really nice pattern. I love the colors in this too. Very earthy tones. And I'm stitching this on 22 count Aida. I had done a test stitching a few months ago, and I tried full cross, 1 thread, full cross, 2 threads, tent stitch, 2 threads, tent stitch, 1 thread, continental tent stitch, 2 threads, continental tent stitch, 1 thread. When I went to stitching on this, I knew I did not want tent stitch. I did not want continental tent stitch, but I couldn't remember, am I going to do full cross 1 strand or 2 strands? So I did a little test stitching, otherwise it'd be a little bit farther. But here are 199 stitches. There's one color missing from here, there's 2 stitches, and I have 1 extra over there. So I chose to use 1 strand over 22 count. On my 18 counts, I'm using 2 strands. I'm also using the knotting, the waist knot technique that Pam Reed showed, that she learned from the Veiled Stitcher. And that needle minder is a gift from a friend. And this one is one I made. So, I'm liking this. And when the longer bars are just dowels, I use the Traveling Stitcher's tips on that. But this started cracking when I put them in. So, handy dandy duct tape. Duct tape comes in fun colors and patterns anymore. I'm still careful not to get too girly on the duct tape, but my husband's very much, just get gray. No, gray is just boring, dear. So that's what I'm stitching. I'm really looking at making a PVC frame for this particular project. I think that might work better in the long run. I'm not sure, I have to do more research. And if you need pillowcases for covering your projects, dollar store. So that was the 13th. That one I'm doing for myself. When it's done, it should be approximately 24 inches by 24 inches. I cannot remember how many stitches. I should have written that down. So yeah, it's going to take me a little while. That one's for me. I did forget to mention that one, the Cross Stitch Crazy group, had a General Haid Sal. So that's why I did that one on the 13th rather than do Teacup Herbs back to back and then do that one, because that one was for a specific stitch along. The General Haid Stitch Along in the Cross Stitch Crazy group was January 13th, and I did a new one rather than a previous stitched one. So that's why I did that one on the 13th. The 15th, the Cross Stitch Crazy group had a UFO Sal, and this was a UFO. I hadn't stitched on it in over 2 years. That's how I define UFOs. And I actually, well, let me show you the pattern. It is the Anniversary Sampler from Stony Creek Magazine, June 2009. You're going to see this a lot because I want this one done in 2016. If I only stitch one project and get it done in 2016, this is it. And when I pulled it out of the UFO pile, this was not complete, this particular alphabet. But in December, I did stitch on it a little bit and kind of to test out my Q-snaps, and I finished that alphabet. I'm going to try and find a picture and put here. Hopefully I found one, because I realized after I was stitching for a while, I thought, I forgot to take a picture before I started stitching versus after. So hopefully I have one. So, okay, yeah, so I stitched this one. So I was able to do, I had a little bit done up here, if I didn't get the picture. I have a little bit done up here. So I was able to fill this in. This is Black Forest by Water Lilies. It's a really pretty silk. And it is a variegated, so you can see it's a little more gray to more blue. And this will mirror this other square. So there's going to be a lot of stitching, because sometimes there's like one stitch way over here and that color is not used again until over here. And then this is a My Big Toe Design needle minder, which I really like. Although when I received it in the package, I bought it at Stitchville, they had a washer on the back for packaging, but they had forgotten to put the second magnet in. So when I bought magnets to make needle minders, I made sure to get one. So I didn't want that washer rusting and damaging my fabric. So here's the whole project. And yeah, we'll definitely see this project a lot more in 2016. This project has pearl cotton, it has water lace silk, Threadworks over dyed threads, it has beads, and because it's our 25th, I'm probably going to add some blending filament or Krennic or something to get a more silver effect on some spots. On some of the spots. I can't remember the fabric. The fabric is one that my husband picked up for me, and I know it's 32 count, and it is Lugana, although it could be Joblin. It's an even weave. I don't remember the exact color. The color that the design calls for is, let's see, actually theirs is 28 cashel linen. That's actually 32. Don't tell me what color it is. So they don't say what color they actually stitched it on. Oh no, sorry. 28 count dark olive cashel linen. So that's probably an olive with 32 count, because I like 32 count better than 28 on most projects. So that was for the UFO sow. And I'd already said I was going to get rid of one of my UFOs in 2016, as in finish stitching it. So that is the one I chose, and it's an enjoyable piece to stitch on. Although when I get to that confetti area, I might have a different opinion. Please don't be surprised if my phone cuts out, because sometimes it cuts off at 30 minutes, sometimes it cuts off at 15, and it doesn't give me any warning. It just says, oh, you're done. So don't be surprised. The 16th is Mirabilia number 3, Florentina. This one went on my wish list immediately after seeing it because she is just beautiful. I just love this one. And she has 7 silks in her. I didn't start stitching on the silks yet, but I will get to them soon enough. And this one is done on 32 count Belfast by Under the Sea Fabrics, and it's called Elphaba. And I started stitching her in the middle, so this section of her lap is what you're going to see. And there's where I'm at. That needle minder I made. So yeah, I love stitching on Under the Sea Fabrics. Their fabrics, even though it's Belfast and linen tends to be stiff when you start working with it, this is really nice to work with. It hangs so nice and stitches up so nice. And I love the pattern also. So she'll be really nice when she's finished. 17th. The 17th was another whip that I started in 2015. And it is Sleeping Princess, Mirabilia number 4. I'd originally started this on a different fabric that said it was 32 count, but as I was stitching on it, it didn't look right. And so I counted, I did the measure an inch, count the threads, and it was only 30 count. Now, if it didn't have kind of the square edges here, if it was like Florentina, it wouldn't have mattered, 30 count, 32 count, but because this is so, it's more full coverage than not, it did matter. And when I frame these, I want to give them, you know, all the extra I can possibly give them. This is for my middle daughter, so I restarted it last year on 32 count Mushroom Lugana. And I will insert a picture here. Because I did remember to take one of where it was when I started. And here is where it's at now. I was able to get all this mattress here done. I would have again, I had a few errands to run and kids to pick up from retreat, and we had a music recital, and yeah, life. And the needle minder is a fish I made, although I think I need to add a second magnet to him. My daughter chose that one. So yeah, I'm liking this one. It's a nice, it's easy to read and to stitch. Always a big plus in my book. So that was the 17th, and that was for the whip style for the Cross Stitch Crazy group. It's just stitch on a whip, so I chose that one to stitch on that day. The 18th. Lizzie Kate, Stitching Forever, Housework Whenever. When my husband saw it, he said, "Oh, no, that explains things." Thanks, dear. No, my husband's not afraid of running a vacuum or sweeping the floor, although I haven't convinced him to clean the bathrooms yet. Just saying. It calls for 6 weeks dye works, or no, excuse me, 5 different colors of threads. Either weeks dye works, which I'll refer to as weeks, for those who are not familiar with that term, or gassed threads, which is Gentle Art sampler threads. And I'm glad that Lizzie Kate has such a large repertoire that she can choose for a large color palette. I don't. It seems like every project I pick of hers has totally different colors. So what I did, because I didn't have any of the colors that it called for, maybe I had one, I went through my collection. I don't have a huge collection, but my collection of weeks and gassed, and I chose similar colors because I liked the purples and the greens. And with my Mo's cottons, I didn't have purples. I had a lot of greens, but I don't have purples. So here is where I'm at. The wording is in mulberry, and the H, the green, is baby spinach. I think those are those gassed. Those might be all gassed. Yeah, I chose 5 different gassed fibers. Gentle Art sampler thread fibers. Except mulberry. Mulberry is a weeks. And the Needle Minder King Arthur is one I made. So this is stitching up fast. This is, I think this is 28 count. So I guess the anniversary sampler could be a 28 count. It looks very similar. I don't know what color it is. It's not mushroom, so I'm calling it khaki. And it was a scrap that I had that it fit on. And so that's what I'm using to stitch that piece on. Sorry, my 5-year-old is having a little bit of a meltdown. Since we've had so many issues with his hearing, when he was younger, he just didn't understand what we were saying and talking to him about. Now that he can, it's hard for him to get in the habit of using his words. He's getting better, but not quite there yet. This is the 19th. Mirabilia number 5. The Raven Queen. I was asked by somebody, since I don't do Halloween, and this could have a Halloween feel to it, this design, was I going to stitch it as it's charted? When I first saw this design, I thought of Regina from Once Upon a Time, one of the outfits she's worn on that show. And what I'm seriously thinking, and I'm pretty sure I saw this on Facebook, somebody posted this, I'm thinking of not stitching the ravens, but in her hand over here having a red apple. I'm pretty sure I saw that on Facebook. But when I get that far, I'll figure it out if I saw it on Facebook or if I have to chart it for myself. But that's what I thought of, so I'm calling her Regina. That's why when I saw this one, that's immediately where I thought, oh, Regina, Once Upon a Time. Stitching this on 32 count Chromatic Alchemy, 32 count Belfast from Chromatic Alchemy. It is called Maelstrom, and it is gorgeous. Just enjoy the fabric. Excuse me. I don't have a cold, but it's dry. It's winter, so the air is getting dry. And here is where I was able to work to her bodice. Not completely done, but a chunk of it done. Because I obviously have some fill-in over here, and it comes down. And I have my Snow White needle minder, since I'm calling her Regina. I'm pretty sure somebody posted that they had put a red apple in her hand. I know somebody was stitching a white Raven Queen, which is beautiful. So, and there was one where instead of all of the greens that are in the dress, somebody had done a lot of rich blues. They still use black, but they had the rich blues. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm definitely calling her Regina. I love this fabric. Chromatic Alchemy. If you have not tried her fabrics, try them. And it is, I found out that sand is a herb. I was gently corrected by someone. Thank you for gently correcting me. Beautiful fabrics. The 20th, yesterday. One of my children had braces put on, or at least the top braces put on. And so I was stitching this. Cleaning the house while children are still growing is like shoveling snow when it's still snowing. I have 13 children. I live in Minnesota. Enough said. Again, this calls for 6 weeks dye works. So I just pulled from my GAST and my weeks, although I'm choosing to only use 5 colors. I did have mulberry, so that's what the words are, mulberry. So that's what I used to stitch it on. This is 28 count Lugana in Antique Field. Again, another scrap that I found. I had stitched something on the other half when I cut this off. I don't remember what that was, but I'm glad I left the label on. It's like shoveling snow. This one's definitely going to be hung up prominently in my house, because I've had some people say, why do you have toys all over the floor? Really? I have 13 children. The youngest is going to be 2 in a few weeks. But I think, I don't know if she's designed one, but maybe I should design one myself. It says, bathroom is now CLEA ... Yeah. Those of you with young children, you totally understand. 10 boys. I'll just leave it there. Aim is an acquired skill. But it was funny when I had the Sleeping Princess on my Lowry frame. My 4-year-old, or he'll be 4 next week. It was so funny because I was stitching and I kept watching the needle go back and forth. So you go, okay, you're done that stitching. Then you look underneath and you try to catch the needle. It was so funny. I did that for like 15 minutes and I thought, what are you doing? And it just fascinated him. And then my 7-year-old, because at my Lowry stand it's stainless steel, and I was stitching on it. And she goes, Mom, if you had this, referring to my Lowry stand outside right now, and you licked it, would your tongue stick? I looked at her and I thought, did I hear you? But it was a pressing question that a 7-year-old needed answered. And at the time it was 19 below temperature. I can't remember what it was, wind chill. So, yes, dear, if you licked it when it was outside, although I wouldn't take it outside in this weather for sure, your tongue would stick. So I thought I'd share that with you. Those ways that your children will respond to your stitching or your items that you use for stitching, it's funny. But I have a mini finish, or a finish nonetheless. I am part of a round robin, and the theme is samplers, and so I finished mine for this month, and it is Sandman Originals. It's called Halloween Quaker. I don't have a picture because it looks like it was a downloaded PDF pattern, and the picture is the pattern, but here it is. The Springfield Stitcher showed this a few months ago, and I stitched this corner here, this little motif. Swirls and a flower. It only has three colors, so it stitched up pretty quickly, and it's ready to send off when we were given the word. So there are only 4 more projects I have to stitch on in this round robin, and then I'll receive mine back, which will be Garden Stars by Ink Circles. And I know there's going to be motifs I need to stitch on that one. And the next one I should receive is from Tara C. And the Sampler Girl, the pattern is called Simply Jane Austen. So that should be the next one I receive. But, yeah, that is the projects from January 10th through January 20th, which was yesterday. And then I plan on doing a video at the beginning of February on the remaining projects, remaining 11 projects. And then I'll have 34 whips. That's a scary number for me. Usually 5 to 10 is plenty, but 34. So hopefully I'll be able to come up with a rotation or some kind of schedule so I can finish some of these off. And I think that's all I have for you today. I did want to do a shout out for a new floss tuber, obsessed stitcher. Her name is Becky. She's really fun to watch. She only has 2 or 3 videos. And also Judy Hewlett. She lives in South Dakota, and I was born and raised in South Dakota, so kind of that kindred spirit aspect. But I love the patterns that she chooses. They're just beautiful, beautiful patterns. And the ones that Becky is showing in the Obsessed Stitcher in her videos, yeah, there's a lot of talent out there. So keep your videos coming. We love watching them. And until next video, happy stitching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, FlossTube.